So my name's Adam. Been here at Texada for coming up on almost a decade now, focusing on rental for heavy equipment businesses with lots of heavy equipment rental companies as well as with dealerships. And then over the last couple of years, been working with dealerships a lot. Been able to give talks at different dealer conferences, and excited to talk about how you can leverage your rental in your dealership to both be profitable purely in the rental division, but also how it can contribute to some of your broader growth goals and being able to fuel other parts of your business. So with that, as Matt mentioned, there is a Q&A at the end. Feel free to throw those questions into the Q&A section at the bottom, and we'll do our best to answer them later on. Or if we can't answer them on the call, we'll definitely get to them later on as well. So with that, let's dive in here. So as I've been working with a lot of heavy equipment businesses, especially on the dealership side, there's typically what's referred to as three lines of business. So you've got your sales, you've got your service, and your rental. When I attended the AED conference, one of the things that stood out in one of the talks was that if a customer does business with you this year, there is a 60% chance that they won't do business with you next year. You have one touch point. Maybe you sold them a piece of equipment and they didn't come to you for service. Why didn't they? That's a big red flag when they know that you have the trained technicians, they know that you have the necessary parts, or maybe they came to you for service, but then when they did need a next piece of equipment, why didn't they buy from you? Or while a piece of equipment is in for service, why aren't they renting from you? Is this that they don't know about all the products and services that you offer? How are you best managing that customer relationship? So part of the way we're approaching it here at Texada, we have solutions that help with your sales team, your service team, and your rental operations, which is going to be the focus of today. But really part of our core philosophy is how can we connect these different lines of business to enable your salespeople, to enable your product support reps to be able to create more opportunities off of every customer touch point and make sure that you're doing a transaction with a customer on a regular basis, not that you would transact with them this year and not transact with them next year. So we do this under the banner of Equipment Business Management. For those of you on the call who are with us already, I'm sure you're familiar. And for the prospects, you may not be as much as well. But really, our solutions are integrated across your rental, sales, and service operations. And we want to help you understand your customers holistically across all lines of business and be able to create opportunities from one line to the other. And I'll be talking about that a little bit more as we go through this presentation as well. It's all built on a modern SaaS platform, so it's all accessible through the cloud, API first, and we're building in more and more web services, mobile extensions, and AI capabilities throughout the platform. And the last piece about us before I jump in here is we are fully focused on the equipment industry. We're not service other industries. We just focus on building the best in class solutions to allow you to get time to value really, really quickly without having spent a lot of time configuring and building out other stuff. So with that, we're going to talk a little bit about one of the dealerships we've worked with. So they joined us in 2020, went live in early 2021. And when they first started talking to us, they were 3 locations, and they were doing about $10 to $15 million a year in revenue. And now sitting here in 2024, they're now doing over $100 million in revenue. They've expanded from 3 locations to 13. Some of that was through net new locations by mapping some of their revenue data. Some of it was through acquisition, and some of that growth was just through adopting some of the best practices and being able to actually drive their rental operations and really viewing technology as a competitive advantage. So I work with a lot of companies. Some view technology as something that just needs to be there. And some people say, okay, how can I best leverage technology to improve the performance of my business? And this dealership definitely falls in that category. They're early adopters of a lot of our products, and really are always looking for ways to modernize and improve their customer experience through digital tools. So when they adopted us, they adopted the Texada platform, and they're actually able to stop using 5 different platforms that really didn't talk to each other. So they weren't really getting as much value as they could out of those. So they're using our core rental management. They're using our logistics dispatching software with the mobile component as well. Same with the service management side. They use our in-house accounting in this particular dealership, as well as our analytics, which is on the bottom right there. So this is just kind of a high-level view of the different tools that they're using with the Texada one licensing model, they get access to everything. They adopt it and as they go. So they're not paying different buckets of licenses for different users within there. So before I jump in here, I want to kick off with a little bit of a poll. Should be popped up on your screen there. And really what I want to understand is, where are you on your rental journey? So we got lots of different people joining these webinars. Some will be more versed in rental, some will be in other parts of the dealership perhaps. And I just want to kind of understand where you're coming from here. So with that, we'll give another couple seconds. And then, all right, and let's show the results here. Perfect. So, oh, we've got a good mix here. So we've got some newer to rental people. Fantastic. I hope you understand. We get through some of the basics here. And then we've got the majority sitting in from a couple of years all the way over into over a decade. So that just, I really appreciate you guys letting me know. It kind of helps me tailor a little bit of some of my stories, as well as, what's the right level of information to be sharing here. So with that, I just want to touch on a little bit about some of the things I've noticed over the last year working with dealerships. So, going all the way back to 2022. And then, when I first started talking with more and more dealerships, and then, reflecting on, 2023 and 2024. So I would say probably the biggest change of what I've heard is dealerships, 2022, if you think about back then, we had supply chain challenges. So servicing things was very difficult. Getting enough equipment manufactured was really difficult to be able to fulfill the customer demands. And rental was kind of, at least the dealerships I talked to, was something that was there. But I heard things like, I have a problem getting enough fleet to even sell to my customers. How can I consider taking some of that fleet and putting it in my rental fleet? I can't focus on rentals right now. I just don't think it's a priority for us. And I'd say over the last year, as we shift into later 2023 and now into 2024, I was hearing a lot of new things from dealerships, and the sentiment has changed in a big way. So one dealer I was working with, they mentioned that, we talk about sales, service, and rentals. Their sales operations and their sales business started to slow down in Q4. And we'll talk to some of the reasons why that could be in there as well. But rental continued to remain steady and even grew in Q4. And they said it helped their year-end targets for profitability and revenue. Another one is, we know we need to be doing more rental. We just don't know how. I hear this from a lot of dealerships, especially who haven't had rental operations before. So hopefully there's some tidbits in here on where to get started and how to grow your operation if you already have some now. Another dealership I was talking to said they doubled in 2023, and they expect to double again this year. Absolutely crazy growth for this dealership. And fantastic to be working with them and seeing those growth opportunities for them. Working with other dealerships, they're saying, the rental tools are holding them back. They know they need to do more, but they're struggling there. I'm also hearing from other dealerships that, if we, again, go back in time, for those who did have rentals in 2022 and early 2023, demand was so high, equipment availability was so low, that anybody with a phone number could rent out a piece of equipment. And now that things are getting a little bit tighter, there's a little bit less demand. We really have to improve our operations. We have to be more effective as both a sales organization and as an operation organization, and we'll talk about that as well. Another one, getting a lot of pressure from your OEMs. So the OEMs that you represent with your dealership, there's a lot of pressure from them to improve your rentals, and we'll talk about why. But it's not just, hey, you want to do it because you can make a lot of money, but it's also fulfilling some of your OEM commitments. And then another one, this was newer for me, is that they view rentals as the way to manufacture used fleet at the right price points. So for example, if you want an excavator of a certain size, somebody came to you and their budget was $80,000. So you define a used piece of fleet that had, a number of the right number of hours to depreciate to the right level, that you're able to sell it. What they were doing was they're actually mining their used fleet, saying, okay, we want to be constantly having fleet in these different sizes and these different price points. So when a customer comes to them, they can say, yes, okay, I've got something for you. So what they're doing is they're buying it new. They're renting it out for the first couple of years or whatever period of time to get to that price point, putting the hours on it, depreciating it, which offsets your rental income. and then you're able to actually have a piece of equipment in the right price point and make money along the whole way. You get the depreciation to write off, you get the income from it, and then you're able to sell a piece of fleet and solve that customer problem without them going to a different manufacturer or competitor to solve that need. So, and the last piece here, as we're talking with prospects, a lot of them are looking for a solution that really ties together their sales and service operations into their rental fleet as well. So, one of the reasons why more and more dealerships are talking about rental beyond the reason that I just touched on there is typically, you think about your rental when it's running properly, your average margin is around 30%. As we know, we would love to be running our dealership and the sales side of it at 30% margin, but we know those are in the single digits typically. And then we know that service and parts is going to be higher margin ones, but they require you having sold more and more of the fleet. So it's definitely an opportunity to make a lot of money and we're going to talk about some of the other opportunities it brings in as well. Second part here is that there are some rental equipment categories that can be really profitable really quickly. So some categories you can actually pay off the piece of equipment in rental revenue in the first 2 years. And then, even 10 years later, a piece of equipment is still worth 50% of what you paid for it. As you know, with most things, depreciation curves, starts declining really rapidly from the beginning, and then it starts to level off. And there's a lot of good rental period in there where you can make a lot of money without having a ton of service and stuff like that as well. So continue on this, some other tailwinds that are happening in the rental industry. There's a lot of growth in the rental market right now. We're going to be talking about changing customer preferences, how we can grow customer engagement retention, the macroeconomic opportunities, and some other ways you can get profitable. So Caterpillar, obviously a major OEM, they predict that the equipment rental market is going to go from 90 billion in 2020 to 135 billion in 2027. I think we are well on track, if not definitely ahead of the game right now from the dealers and the rental companies that I'm working with. So I definitely see that trend continuing to grow and become even more accelerated with some of the current challenges that are facing our customers, the contractors and the infrastructure companies. So I'm going to talk a little bit about why rental makes sense right now. Some of the biggest things I'm hearing from dealers and also working with industry publications and stuff like that is that customers are looking for flexibility in their fleet. So if they're not 100% certain their entire years where the project is not fully booked out yet, they're not always sure what type of equipment they're going to need for sure. Yes, sometimes you can use the wrong size of equipment. You can use a bigger lift with a higher retreating. You can use a telehandler with a higher lift capacity, but this allows them to actually optimize what do they need for the jobs. If there's things that they're going to be needing constantly throughout the year, those are great things to buy and maintain, or set up a service contract with your dealership to be able to get it serviced throughout the year. But if there's stuff where they need some variability, a lot more contractors are getting sophisticated and they're actually looking to optimize that rent when they need to. And part of the reason why they want to rent is because they don't want the fleet management and the maintenance costs. They know they have a job from the 1st to the 31st. They call up the rental operation, say, I need it from this period. They get it, and then once they're done with it, they send it back. They don't have to manage transportation. They don't have to have a team of technicians. And they don't need to worry about all that stuff. The other side of it is reducing risks. So with a lot of different types of equipment, especially on the aerial side, there is risk associated with operating it. Make sure it's maintained properly. If you're going to be on a boom 185 feet in the air, or I think there's some now that are 205, that's an incredible amount of risk for the operator. Making sure it's properly maintained, properly inspected. There's lots of laws around OSHA and other regulatory bodies that make sure that we are operating safely, so they're able to make sure that they're reducing their risk. And then lastly, they can tie their project costs to revenue. So they, when they're going to quote a job, they say, okay, how much fleet am I going to need to rent? What's that going to cost me? And when they do that, they're able to back out what their profit's going to be, and then they can bid appropriately. When you spend $1 million on a piece of equipment and you're not sure exactly how much you're going to use it, it's harder to project those costs from there. This is one of the big ones I'm hearing a lot. There's always rumors of different types of uncertainty in the market, and one of the things I'm hearing about is okay, the higher interest rates makes equipment financing more costly. So yes, this is the challenge that's facing us as the rental operators and as a dealership, but definitely it's something that's also top of mind for the contractors. Dealership has a lot more steady money supply and access to capital than what a contractor would. As you know, they're very cyclical on their demand cycles, and that can definitely impact their ability to borrow. And there's always recession concerns, and that's kind of flaring up a little bit as well with high inflation costs. So if they're not sure if there's going to be future projects, if some of the starts aren't there, they don't want to be purchasing pieces of equipment, but it's still a way that you can make money from there, right, as well. So this is a quote from Josh Nickel. He is the VP of Equipment for the American Rental Association. And the key part here is that every minute a piece of equipment is waiting to be serviced is a minute that could be waiting to be delivered to another customer. Or if that piece of equipment is down, it can't be rented to somebody else. So this really just double clicks on the need to improve our operational effectiveness as a dealership, as well as making sure that we are always looking for those opportunities. Is my fleet status, my rental system 100% up to date? Is it accurate to what is available, what the current status is, and being able to build upon that and being able to get that piece of equipment out as fast as possible. One way that you're able to do this is with a really good inspection program. There's multiple sides to it of the advantages of the inspection program, but we'll touch on a couple here. So this was a major rental company, and the big challenge they were facing was they do really fast transactions, equipment be going out and coming back in. And what was happening was there'd be damage happening to the equipment, but they wouldn't be capturing that damage and then billing it to the customer. So what was happening was they were just eating all the cost of all of those damages. And once the customer leaves the job site or the equipment leaves the job site, it becomes much more difficult to be able to say, hey, Mr. Customer, Mrs. Customer, you damaged this windshield. And their classic response, no, I got it that way. No, your driver did that. I don't know what you're talking about. And, they're trying to get out of that $1,000, $2,000, whatever bill. For that, you now have a piece of equipment that's down. Maybe you didn't notice that the windshield was damaged for a day or two while it's back in the yard. So you can't go back. It's harder to go back to the customer. You've now committed it to another rental because it's been returned to the yard. And you have to get this fixed before you can send it out again. So it both ties to your equipment utilization, being able to turn over that piece of equipment really quickly, as well as the ability to actually either eat that $2,000 cost or be able to pass it on to the customer and make sure that profit and that profit erosion doesn't happen here. So what they did was they implemented our rental inspections, and now what they're able to do is, as they're doing their inspections, they're able to compare, okay, I'm picking up this piece of equipment. What did it look like when it went out? Do a quick compare there. And they saw that previously they were catching about 3% of equipment that got returned was damaged in some way, leading to them being able to collect on it. To now that they're using this, they're actually collecting on 9% of their rentals that have damaged, being able to pass it on to onto the customer. And because this rental company was of a very large scale, they were actually, over the span of a year, they saved over $15 million of costs or added $15 million of revenue, depending on how you want to look at it, but really both are true. And that was fantastic to work with them on that project. So typically what we're seeing is we've seen companies as low as 2% being able to do that damage detection at time of returned equipment. And then other customers are seeing up to 12%. So really it's a 3 to 4x times, depending on your scale of the amount of damage that they're able to collect for, as opposed to just absorb that cost. So with that, we've got one more poll here, and I want to understand what do you think is holding you back from growing the rentals within your business? So we don't have enough demand, we don't have enough equipment to send it out, or we're just not sure where to start. We're not sure what's going on. We're not sure what exactly is our biggest barrier. If you have another questions kind of top of mind, feel free to throw it in the Q&A channel as well. as I'd love to be able to answer at the end. So with that, let's pull up the results. All right. So we've got about half the people are saying that we don't have enough demand. A smaller percentage, about a sixth, are saying we don't have enough equipment to send it out. And then a bigger piece, again, the other third is saying that we don't know where to start. So again, I'm glad you're here. Hopefully you're able to get some ideas from here. And yeah, we have a team of rental consultants who can definitely work with you as you're scaling your rental operation, and would be happy to talk. So typically what we're seeing, and kind of that's the way the question was phrased, was demand. So do we have sales issues, or is it an operational issue? Is we, there's, yes, we need to buy more fleet, but there's also how do we get the most utilization out of the fleet that we've already, invested millions or tens of millions of dollars into purchasing. So I'm going to run through a couple here. On the sales side, how can you see if you have a sales problem? Super, go back to basics. Do we have rentable equipment sitting in the yard? So I specifically said ready to rent equipment, and this means it's not waiting for an inspection, it's not waiting for service. We've run those things, we've run those traps, we've done those processes, and we know the issue is that it's ready to rent, but we just aren't getting that demand. We're not seeing a rental sales pipeline. Your sales reps may not be actually building a pipeline, managing a pipeline, maintaining it, and saying, okay, what are those future opportunities? And we'll talk about some potential solutions on as well. Lack of repeated customers. So if a lot of your deals are the first time, it's the first time, it's the first time, or they haven't rented in 2 years, then they re-rent them again. This really speaks to a sales problem, because what your reps are typically doing is they're just answering their phone, getting an email saying, I want to rent a skid steer. We're sending out a skid steer. They're not really, working the market. They're not building up their own demand base. So they're just opportunistic sales versus building a relationship, understanding what's going on. And really that just leads back to poor sales reps performance. So are they doing the basics? Are they building the relationships? Are they doing the prospecting in their territory? And really uncovering those opportunities to be able to rent more equipment to your customers. On the operations side, some of the things that you'll look for that'll tell you if you have an operation problem. So this is off-rented equipment sitting on the job site awaiting pickup. I worked with one company that, previous to us, as we were doing the onboarding, we ran some reports and kind of understood what was going on. And they had some piece of equipment that a customer's called, said, hey, please come pick it up. And they weren't picking it up on average for over 20 days. So it's 3 weeks of rental potential where it's sitting there, with some tickets being over 50 days. So almost 2 months where it's sitting there. They're possibly still using a little bit because it's sitting on the job site. Sometimes it's in the way, and it's annoying them that you haven't picked it up, or you just don't have visibility to that. So as we worked with them, they were able to get that down to 3 days. Were open pickups on a job site. So obviously the goal is to be as close to zero or as close to one as possible. But 3 days is a huge lift, and they were able to unlock so much more fleet just by having it available to them, getting it back to the yard as soon as possible. Another one operation issue is poor on-time delivery performance. So if a customer calls and says, hey, I need a skid steer on Monday at 8 a.m., and you say, yep, your order's taken, sign your contract, take a deposit, whatever you do in your operation. If you don't deliver it there by 8 a.m. on Monday, you've broken the customer trust. So talking back to what we were mentioning before, every customer touch point is an opportunity, whether there's buying something from you, servicing something with you, or renting something with you. This can affect future rental opportunities. It can be, hey, I know this dealership is a really good way to buy equipment. Maybe they're cool with service, but the rental just isn't there, and I can't rely on them. So you have an opportunity to either build trust or break trust. And when you're running well, you definitely want to be monitoring your on-time delivery performance. Another one on the operation side is if there's a service call in the first 24 hours of the rental, that is a big red flag. that says, hey, we didn't do our pre-rental inspection properly, our equipment's not being maintained properly, and it's a terrible customer experience. Again, back to, if it's arrives on time but it breaks down right away, that's not good. You're tying up a technician to go on site for an unplanned event, or you're sending another piece of fleet to do a swap. All of this ties up your team, and we know that mechanics and drivers are definitely not growing on trees right now, and there definitely is a lot of need to be optimizing that. And then lastly, on the operations side is, this can be holding back your business if you have the wrong fleet mix for your market. So either it's, do I have the right, we want to answer the question, do I have the right equipment in the right location at the right time? And we'll talk about that a little bit more as well. So on the rental sales problem, here's some ways that you can uncover that and as well as address it. So, the basics, what gets measured gets done. So how are you tracking your KPIs? How are you tracking your rental rep productivity? What's their prospecting activity for the rental side? Are they doing lead nurturing? Are you doing win-loss analysis where they sent out a quote and they didn't get the deal? Are we analyzing why not? Are we taking that information, learning and growing, and improving as an organization? When we look at the rental pipeline, constantly looking at, okay, what's our pipelines, for that. If you're working with a contractor and that they're working on a job, sit down with them, understand what kind of jobs you have coming up. What are you bidding on? Can I help provide rental pricing for some of those bids? And then if you win those deals, you already have a pipeline. So, okay, so you're going to need, think you're going to break ground on November. You think you're going to need the aerial in January, let's say. You can actually pre-plan those quotes and you can follow up with them, right? This is a future rental opportunity. You're able to get those quotes and those reservations into the system and then be able to fulfill them as you get closer. I would say one of the things I would think about heavily is, are you using the same reps that sell equipment and rent equipment? I think there's advantages of either model, but more and more dealerships I'm seeing are having dedicated rental sales reps. It's a little bit different buyer's journey. It's maybe the same buyer. And maybe it'll hand off an opportunity from one rep to another and vice versa, and really build that team relationship and that team opportunity in the future. But doing that handoff is so important. And the challenge I've seen a lot of dealerships deal with is, maybe they get 2 to 4% on a rental, which is the same, maybe 2 to 4% they're getting on a new piece of equipment, depending on CAT class. But on a rental, because your margin is higher, your commission structure should be higher. They should be incentivized and get a higher performance bonus if they're getting the top rental revenue as opposed to a heavily discounted rental revenue. So optimizing your commission structure to incorporate fully booked rentals versus discounted rentals. So one thing I would think about is your sales team set up right? And is your commission structure incentivizing pure rent-to-rent opportunities for you? Another one that I would do as a dealership is I would focus on, what are some things that you can do that your competitors can't? You should have better access to fleet than pure rental houses. And you should be able to offer, alternatives. So they can do a rent to own or a rent to purchase option. This is something that pure rental houses aren't really set up for. They don't have the capital structure to be able to offer that. And then, I touched on this many times before, and I'll say it one more time here, is can you build on those existing relationships that you have with the sales and service business line? Are you looking at a full picture of your customer record and understanding all the different ways they're transacting with you and kind of unearthing opportunities to grow with them more? At the end of the day, a customer loves a one-stop shop. They love being able to reliably count on you for all the different types of business. And we want to make sure that we're empowering you as a dealership to be able to do that. Next piece here is, are you capturing those customer requests even if you can't fulfill them with missed rentals? So a missed rental says, customer calls you and says, hey, I need a 30-foot scissor. Do you have it? If you are unable to fulfill them for some reason, definitely still capture the request. Sometimes they're asking for a fleet that you don't even own or rent yet. You don't have a re-rental partner yet. So being able to drill in a little bit deeper there and understand what are they asking for will inform your fleet mix in the future, and we'll talk about that a little bit more as well. So a couple more metrics that I would definitely be top of mind looking for operational challenges. First one would be mean time to repair. So for your rental fleet, it's so important that that the piece of equipment is always ready to rent. So if it is damaged, if it just is down for preventative maintenance or some major failure, whether it's customer or not, piece of equipment do break down over time. It's just part of the game. So how fast are you turning over those repairs? How fast are you taking a piece of equipment that's been returned to the ready line? How fast can you turn that? What's your on-time performance for delivery and your pickup ticket aging that I touched on before. So one of the things I would be thinking about as a dealership is what is your methodology for deciding what gets fixed first? If you've got a customer-owned piece of equipment and you have your own piece of equipment for the rental fleet, how are you prioritizing or scheduling between these two conflicting things? Do you have the same department or do you have two separate departments? I work with dealerships that have same co-location with the main dealership. Rental operations is on the same site, but they have different bays for the service for rental. Some just have it all as one big pot. They just keep booking bays and keep booking piece of equipment to be serviced in there. And then some are completely separate, whether it's not co-located and they just run their own operations. Sometimes, yeah, they got to send it over to the parent co for larger repairs, and they do more so the small quick turns. But something to think about is, okay, is this holding you back? Is your ability to get the equipment out and keep driving that equipment utilization being impacted by that? So the other big question on the operations side is, do you have the right fleet mix? So what I kind of refer to as the trifecta of, do I have the right fleet, is monitoring your re-rentals. So again, the customer called you, asked for a certain piece of equipment. You had to go to a third-party partner, another rental company, another dealership, whatever, rent it from them, and then send it to customer because you want that customer to be calling you and you want to be fulfilling all of their needs. Are you monitoring substitutions? So if you do have a piece of equipment, so an example, I ask for a 19-foot scissor lift, but you don't have any of those in stock, maybe you send them a 23. With substitutions, you're actually able to track that you're giving them a 23 at the price point of a 19. So it doesn't, so it's still going to affect your time utilization, your dollar utilization, but when you're drilling into it, understand, okay, why are my 23s, why am I not getting my peak rental rates for them? It's because you actually need more 19s. Obviously, a 19 is slightly cheaper to purchase, slightly cheaper to maintain, and you can actually fulfill exactly what the customer is looking for. And when you get one of those 19s back in, you can call the customer and say, hey, I know you asked for a 19, I sent you a 23. If it's a longer term rental, hey, can I come swap that? Sometimes the customer will say, actually, the 23 is really nice. It's helping me in this other area. I would like to keep it. You can flip the rates and start getting billed for the 23 as it should have been. Sometimes they'll say swap it. Sometimes you'll substitute your own piece of equipment for a re-rented piece of equipment. So not only are they getting the cheaper rate, but maybe you're doing it through a third party because they didn't have availability. You want to make sure that you're getting the maximum dollars for each one. So if you're looking at how much of my equipment am I re-renting from a partner, how much am I substituting, and what equipment am I missing, these are three different very important data points to help you understand what do I need to buy more of and what maybe do I have less demand than I like. And then look at that utilization by region. So maybe one region is having more forestry projects and that requires one type of equipment, or one's more mining area and that requires that. Those are going to be more like static, more like geographical based. But then if you look at, okay, where's there more construction activity? What states or provinces are incentivizing that? Are there any major like government contracts that are being built? Any major infrastructure like a new stadium being built in the area? They're going to have higher demand in that area. And how can we move our equipment around from region to region if we operate across a larger area? A couple more pieces here on ways that you can make money. So I talked about how you can manufacture used equipment fleet at different price points, just by depreciating and renting it out, and making sure you always have some piece of equipment at different prices. Yes, we want to buy trade-ins. Yes, we want to get used fleet at a good price and be able to flip it. But that's not always possible, especially when things are tight as well. Another one for certain dealerships, they're actually increasing their rental fleet. This is typically, like a Q4 thing. Hey, if you look at your entire year's purchases from your OEM partner, if you buy 5 more of these, whatever, buy another $1 million, whatever, a fleet, you can actually hit that accelerators for, bonuses and kickbacks for yourself, and then you can again make the money on the rental on the other side, or sell it as a used fleet later on. Another big one is when you have newer products, when you've been around for a long time and people maybe haven't used your brand for a while. Having it on the job site does a couple things. Number one, it proves that your product is still performing at an amazing level. And this is very important to showing that you're able to, again, consistently deliver on expectations. They're actually paying you while they're using it. They're getting familiar with it. I remember speaking with, somebody in the dealership, and they gave the analogy of, hey, I grew up, I was a Ford guy. My dad was a Ford guy. I always drove Fords. And then, I'd travel for work and I actually rented a Volvo. And I fell in love. I used it for the first time, used it for a week. I appreciated some of the features, some of the creature comforts, and honestly, I've bought Volvos ever since. So much the same way, we want to make sure that our fleet is on the job site. We're getting paid for those demos. We're having people fall in love with our equipment, our company, and our experience. We're able to deliver them, as well as driving market awareness for what are the new models capable of. Maybe they didn't like the controls on a previous year's model, but we've changed them in some way, or it had some perceived drawback. We're able to prove that over and over again to our customers. Uh, as we talked about before, if somebody's renting a piece of equipment consistently from you, that's a sales opportunity. So if they are consistently renting it from you, over a 6 month, 9 months, 12 month time period, having those conversations with them, understanding, forwarding that off to your heavy equipment or your main equipment sales rep, saying, hey, I'm seeing they're renting a lot of this. There may be a sales opportunity for you there. Really working together as a team to drive those opportunities. And again, as we mentioned many times before, these are opportunities that you have as a dealership to have more customer engagement, to have more touch points, and to build more mind share. So with that, just doing a quick time check. Okay. All right, a couple more minutes here. So as mentioned, if you do have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. Happy to answer those for you here. So now I'm just going to touch on a couple more KPIs before we wrap up into the Q&A. So the main thing to be aware of here is there's things that you can monitor within your business that are more predicting what the future is going to look like. So these are what's called leading indicators, and then you have lagging indicators that you only find out once everything's done. You're looking back and saying, okay, what did we sell last year? So a lot of companies are really good at focusing on lagging indicators. They're easier to track because they're now history, and they're also things that are going to be more observable. So how much revenue did we make? Easy. Check the bank account. What had come in plus the receivables. Great. That was our revenue. What was our expenses? Again, what came out of the bank account? What's our outstanding payables? Great. We have our expenses. Profit and loss. Again, subtract your expenses from your revenue. Hopefully it's a positive number. Hopefully it's a big positive number. Those things are easier to track, and those are things that most finance teams, most accounting people are going to be looking at. The problem with these is that you can't correct them in the past. What's happened in the past is a lost opportunity to be more efficient, to be more effective, and drive more opportunities for yourself, versus what's in the future are things that you're able to work on. So some of them, a couple of them here, asset utilization. So, we'll talk about, two common versions are dollar utilization or time utilization. We've talked about fleet turnover speed. So how can I get as quickly as possible into the right, get equipment from being returned into being ready to be rented? What is your return on investment? So what is your total cost? Can I improve my rates? Can I minimize my maintenance costs? And can I collect on customer damage like we talked about before? So time utilization, feel free to pause and screenshot this if you're not watching live. But really time utilization says, okay, if I have 365 days in a year, that's not a leap year. How many days is it actually being rented for? Typically, like good rental operations will be sitting in the 60%. Some category classes maybe naturally a little bit higher because they have faster turnover, like smaller pieces of equipment where they don't really require service between use, just hose them off and send them out again. Or if it's a bigger piece of equipment, maybe it takes a little bit longer. But the big piece here is best in class is that 70s to 80%. Once you pass 80%, things will start to break. You can't move it fast enough. You can't get it from one customer site to another fast enough. And that's when you definitely, if you're passing 80%, you probably need to be buying more fleet on there. Time utilization, some ways that you can optimize this, as we talked about before. How fast can we turn it over? How are we optimizing your re-rentals and your substitutions, and your mean time to repair? The other side of that utilization metric is your dollar utilization. If I go back to the dealership example that I gave, we talked about both, looking at we have our Texada Analytics and our Visual BI dashboard, which shows both your time utilization and dollar utilization. Sometimes your time utilization can be really high, where we're renting it out a lot, but we're not really making money. How long is it going to take us for that payback period? And that's where your dollar utilization comes in. It says, okay, what's the total rental revenue? Put that over your cost to acquire the asset, and then times 100%, that's your dollar utilization. So the bigger the piece of equipment, typically the lower the dollar utilization, just because it does take longer to pay back $1 million piece of equipment than it takes to pay back a $5,000 piece of equipment. There is a ceiling on how much you can rent. That's why the bigger the equipment, you'll have a little bit less demand because it's so expensive, but you'll also have a little bit less competition because not everybody can carry a very large piece of equipment on their books that way. And then the third most important one is your return on investment. So what is your total costs? So in this example, we bought the piece of equipment for $50,000. Getting it all set up and whatnot was $5,000. So getting it shipped in, getting it operational. So total investment was $55,000. And then we look at, okay, what's our net income over our initial investment? So in this example, if we look at our 5 years revenue, we were generating $140,000 over our $55,000 cost. So that means we made 254% ROI on this piece of equipment. So again, how to increase your ROI? This is where asset utilization is so important to optimize, and then make sure that you're billing your customers for. So a couple key takeaways here. Understand how your sales and operations teams are performing. Look for those indicators that says, hey, I have a sales problem or I have an operations problem. Measure your key metrics over time. Make sure you're constantly improving those to improve your operational performance. And then look for new tools and ways that you can leverage technology to speed things up, like in the asset inspection example. So with that, we've got time for 1 or 2 questions here. And before we jump into that, feel free, if you want to get a personalized demo of the system, do reach out to sales@texadasoftware.com. Head out just to the website, texadasoftware.com. One of our team members would love to walk you through the way some of our rental solutions can work for your dealership. So I appreciate all the time and attention and the questions here. So I'll first question here is around, does your system work with my existing ERP? Yep. So on our rental side, so the dealership example that I was talking to, they are using our rental side as their ERP, but we also have lots of dealerships that use a third-party ERP, and then we just integrate with them tightly. So you can run your rental operations as a separate division, but it's still going to talk to your ERP. It's still going to talk to your sales and service solutions.